Oh,
for
everybody
you.
loves you. Look at that. All right.
You missed them. They went quick.
So, for those that don't know, back in January, the Fort Myers Beach Fire Board voted to purchase the property that the old Top Supermarket used to occupy, and that means Fire Station, I guess 31 and 32 will kind of be, 31 will be. I'm not taking all your questions. Don't worry about it. I'm just setting the stage for you. I'm not ruining it. And so it's going to be modernized and everything's going to be upgraded. It's a great location, a lot closer. It's kind of in the middle. So let's turn it over to the lovely wife. She's been my bride for 30 or 40 years. Kim Ryan, take it from here.
Okay. Well, if you had read what I sent you and subsequently sent him, what we're going to do is talk a little bit first before we get into that to just give everybody an overview of the Fort Myers Beach Fire Department. So welcome to the show. Thank you. We're back on track now. So go ahead and give us a little bit of an overview about how many stations and all of that stuff so people know.
Thank you for having me again. Appreciate it. Thank you. Our fire department, well, I could talk for quite a bit about our fire department, so I'll keep it a little bit brief. But the Fort Myers Beach Fire Department, which is actually the fire control district, so we're an independent government entity. You hear the word fire department, sometimes that's a subset of a city. We're actually a separate control district, so we cover both Estero Island as well as San Carlos Island and a little bit of the mainland, so not just the town itself. It's actually, the organization's been here quite a bit longer than the town, a kind of a longer standing government entity. We have 4 facilities, 3 fire stations. The first one is on the mainland, Station 32, as you see when you're coming in, and that and then as you come on the island, you get about mid-island of Station 31. The one we'll be talking about a little bit is right there at Denora and Estero. Just around the corner and down the block on Voorhees is our headquarters administrative facilities. And then way down at the other end on Linnell is Fire Station 33, covering the south end of the island. So 3 stations and 1 headquarters facility is what we respond out of.
Well, yes. And so the area, I think it's important for people to know that it's not just Estero Island, as you mentioned, that gets serviced. There's stuff on the mainland and then San Carlos Island, right?
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
So now tell us a little bit about the breakdown in personnel, because there's firefighters and then there's EMS. Is that correct? And some are cross-trained or?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So Lee County, there's only 2 fire departments that also run their own ambulance system, and that's us and Lehigh Acres. And years ago, that was a decision made to give our community a quicker response to ambulances, whether it be our remoteness, because we're an island, or the traffic and all the issues we see. We want to get the ambulances there quicker. So because of that, we run a little more robust system so our folks get ambulances as well as fire trucks. And so our ambulances have 2 fire paramedics on them, and our fire trucks also have fire paramedics. So they're not single source, if you will. They don't just do EMS. They're firefighters and paramedics, so we can use them for firefighting as well as for medical services. So we have a total of 64 personnel within the fire department. 49 of them are firefighters and paramedics out in the street, and then the rest are administrative folks as well as our inspectors, fire prevention, code enforcement, fire marshals, things like that. And some of that is structured around, as I discussed, there's a difference between a fire department and a district. A district is completely independent, which means we have to run our own fleet services, our own human resources, our own finance department. So you have a separate kind of administrative structure, where a city, they work with the city's structure. So that's kind of how we're made up.
And I know you and I were talking about a little bit before the show about the size of the department, because when you look at, the residents, when you look at the area, the resident population is pretty low when you consider 64 people, but you have to account for the flux. How does that change? How is that different from a city? I
kind of joke and call it the tale of 3 cities.
Okay.
There's the summer when it's a little quieter and we have our permanent residents, and then there's when season comes and we have the influx, and our folks are running constantly. Our ambulances are just making trips back and forth from the hospital, and then there's spring break.
Right.
And so, and that's just an explosion of call volume, especially in closer to the Times Square area. And so you're right. The fire department is built to provide consistent services 24/7, despite population growth, influx, and so forth, which is different than you might see in private industry. Private industry, we may expand and contract services based on that load. The fire department doesn't operate that way, because you need the same resources, whether there's 100 calls a year or 1 call a year. And so because of that, and being funded the way we are, it's a tax funded entity, it's not a private funded entity, we maintain a real consistent set of resources. So we always have at least 14 firefighters on duty on the island, because we need to get a certain group of resources to every incident. Believe it or not, if you have a fire in our district, you get 4 engines, 2 ladder trucks, 2 ambulances, and a battalion chief. Well, that's a lot of resources. That's even more than just our department brings alone. We have agreements with outside agencies to bring you those resources. Now, whether there's 70,000 people or 7,000 people on the island, you still need that group of resources. And so we maintain a real consistent staffing model throughout the year. The difference in our influx of seasonal population is those resources are less and less available because they're running so many calls. Those ambulances are out at the hospital, and so we bring in like a Lee County ambulance to help cover the area, but we lose some of those resources because they can't go to a fire when they're transporting a patient. One more quick comment on that is Lee County runs a very progressive closest unit dispatch system. So it means it doesn't matter what patch we're wearing. If a different fire truck is closer, that fire truck will go to the call. It's a fantastic system because the community doesn't really care what's on the door of that fire truck when it shows up. And so if an Iona McGregor Bonita Springs fire truck is closer, they're on the ticket for that call, and it gets the community the quickest response possible. So it's not like that everywhere in the country. So it's a pretty positive system we have here to get the resources.
And you were talking about, the funding, that it's funded mostly by tax dollars. What other revenues come into the department?
Definitely the primary and most robust is tax dollars, no question about it. We have a set tax levy just like you have for other districts. The only other revenue sources we have are, one, a little bit of ambulance revenue coming in because there's still an ambulance insurance fee, when you're transported, though that doesn't by any means cover the full cost of the ambulance system. And then there's the prevention side. So we do our own in-house fire plans examination, permitting, inspection, and that has a fee schedule that is built. That fee schedule roughly is built on a 30-70 model, meaning 30% to run our life safety division, our inspectors, is covered by fees, and 70% is still subsidized by taxes. So it's more of a tax-funded entity, but you do have some of those fees coming in.
One of our viewers wants to ask the question, explain why the increase in fire district taxes, why it was so much. I don't know that it was.
It's
I hadn't
a great
paid
question.
attention,
Yeah,
but
we went from about a 2.6 to a 2.9-ish and some change, tax levy change. That was a little over a year in the making. And so those that do attend our board meetings regularly kind of saw that coming. It's part of a strategic plan to fund this facility project. And so there was 2 things being captured there. One was to properly reset our capital building program so we're properly contributing and withdrawing, and then 2 was to fund this large project because it required a land procurement. All of our existing capital projects had facility replacements built in, but not land procurement. And when you have to move a location, that changes the whole model quite a bit. So our Board of Fire Commissioners chose to put that tax levy where it's at right now to jumpstart that program and fund this project. And then in the future, they can reassess and decide if it needs to stay there or if it can teeter back down.
just one more question on that. Do you have the capability to sell part of that property if you don't use it all, or could you rent it out and get some income from it, or what's the plan there?
Great question. So for us, the Tops property was about as good as it can get. And the size, the location, gave kind of the community and the district everything it needed all in one. And so that lot size is about 2.15 acres. What it allows us to do is design and site plan the building that will likely be on the back half of that property. And then after that's done, we may build it first, but after the design is done, we can decide how much will be left on the front. The Estero frontage is probably much more lucrative for another type of business or something like that. And so we'd really like to see another valuable community asset go in if there's some property left on the front, whether it be the grocery store, the pharmacy, something that helps the community. We're hoping that there is some property left on the front to do that on the Estero frontage portion.
So now the station that's going to be going there, Station 31.
Right.
And so that needed to be replaced or redone because...
So I'll give you a little history. That station was built, I think, in 1949.
Whoa.
In 2000,
There you go.
Right? That doesn't mean it's obsolete, but it's been through a lot. In 2002, you can kind of see when building maintenance costs start shooting through the roof and things like that, a building is getting near end of life. In 2002, the district did a study, brought in a group to say, what is the lifespan look like on this building? And they said, you got two choices. You can tear it down, rebuild, or you can do a very substantial renovation and relocate administrative offices off-site like we did in a new facility. The district chose to do that, and we were told that would buy us about 10 to 15 years, which would have taken us to about 2012 to 2017, and it did. So it bought us more than 15. So in the end of 2017, we brought in a group of engineers to do a systems analysis, structural analysis. Their feedback was it is definitely at end of life, and any renovation to bring it up to code and standards and compliance would be well over the FEMA 50% rule. It would equate to a tear down and rebuild. That opened up the door to, okay, what can you rebuild on the same site? And because it'd be a new facility, new setback requirements would fall into place. That building sits on 0.15 acres.
Wow.
So we probably could not even achieve the compliance in parking, much less the building design on that same lot. And though that's unfortunate, it kind of forced us to start looking around to say, okay, I can't build anything there on the same lot because we lost setback. Where is the right direction to go?
Chief, are you thinking that is like the perfect spot? I mean, it just seems
that's
like
what was one of my questions.
Can I ask one question?
Were any other sites
I'm trying
considered?
to defer to you for most of the questions, but
I thought you were
sometimes
gonna
I like
lead.
to wing it. I don't need paperwork to ask all the questions.
I don't either, but
Okay,
I'd
so
like to be organized.
sorry, Chief. She gets like this all the time, even at home. But so it just seems like you have more room to move. You have more, more. You don't have to. That area where you are now, it just seems like you have to do 6-point turns to get out of there with the engines. It just seems like it's in the perfect spot also to get this way and to get the other way. Is it?
You hit the nail on the head. Is we're actually building fire engines to fit in that station rather than necessarily the way they could be. And so, that's another red flag, right? But back in early 2018, we did a response modeling study, and we worked with Lee County's dispatch center as well as a GIS division to do that. And I don't want to get too technical because it's a little over my head, but the concept is they went back several years and they mapped every response we had gone to as a department. They were able to determine when can the fire truck go at posted speed limits, when can it go over, and when does it have to go under. And that's kind of a lead into the traffic issue, because just because road miles is this direction, really getting there is very different, especially when you have one main thoroughfare and canals. So that data spit out a bunch of numbers and said, okay, if you were to relocate a station, where should it go? And it actually said optimum would be to relocate Station 31 0.7 miles towards Times Square because of not just call modeling, but population density trends and things like that. So kind of being proactive, saying where is the call load picking up? It's picking up towards Times Square even before some of the development opportunities we have. So that moved it almost to about Del Mar and Estero, I think was the optimum location. Well, then Tops comes along exactly where it's at. And I think, again, you said it. You couldn't pick a better location. And it not just because of the size and being right across the street from Town Hall was incredibly beneficial as well, but the response modeling said that's going to get better response times to the community to move at that 0.7 miles. So win.
And I will say, I looked at, I was telling you, I looked on the website and there's a lot of information in the strategic plan and statistics in there. And it talks of, there is a graph about the response time, which is really good, but it's always something that you're looking in an emergency. That's the number one thing, like how to get that as quick as possible. So this new station will help to improve the response time just from a logistics standpoint.
It'll actually, it'll proactively relocate those resources, again, 0.7 miles down the road, but with our dynamic and traffic, 0.7 miles makes a pretty big difference. Our goal is that the first fire truck gets to any emergency in 4 minutes or less, and all the fire trucks get there within 12 minutes or less. And you don't always have the opportunity to relocate or pick up a fire station and move it, but when you do, we really want to look at the data to make sure it's going in the right place for future growth.
Now, out of the money that was spent for this, will that also include any equipment or upgrades to the IT stuff? What?
Good question. The larger scale component is we actually hope to delete a facility out of this.
Okay.
We hope to combine this. We've well outgrown our admin facility, and so we have admin actually in 2 different places. We hope to build a facility that houses both Fire Station 31 as well as all the administrative, IT, all those folks. That'll in the long run allow us actually to delete one of our facilities and save on maintaining a 4th facility. So the long run, that should help quite a bit. As far as equipment goes, since it's a station relocation, it doesn't need new equipment per se, but it will allow us to relook at where equipment's located. So right now we have a ladder truck way down at the south end of the island. We like the idea of considering maybe getting that a little more centrally located, but as Ed said, that station cannot house a ladder truck right now, even with the grade pulling in. So we may be able to more strategically place our resources because of the station.
Any plans to get a fire boat?
Well, I knew that question would come up, and that property being on the back and having potential canal access gives us that option. Right now, that option really doesn't exist. We don't have any facilities on water. And so I think for the long run, this sets us up. So if the department does want to go that route and go into a marine resource, we actually have the ability to do it, right out our back
What do
door.
fire boats cost? You have any idea?
I am by far not an expert on fire boats. I think they're less than a fire engine, so that's good.
Okay. What does a fire engine cost?
An average fire engine costs about $600,000, and a fire truck costs $1.2 million.
Wow. That's
Blows your mind,
incredible.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Sure, it's worth every penny.
Well, it is, and there's no way around it. I mean, increasing safety standards and what's required for those apparatus, you're right, there's no way around it. Luckily, we've built our capital plans to replace those trucks properly. It gets even more complex when you talk about value of that truck for resale, when the maintenance costs start going up. So we try and offload those after between 10 and 12 years because we can actually get some money back for them and recycle that to another agency. So it's all part of that capital plan.
Right now, where are the most calls that you have to respond to?
Surprisingly, when we did that modeling, our stations are pretty well distributed across this service area. And so there are some stations that are a little busier than others, but those 3 stations are pretty well divided up to handle the call load. We do see more in the Times Square area, and we project more in the Times Square area. So this will continue to be the highest call density area. But again, right now, not too different between the different stations. Station 32, the one on the mainland over there, probably sees the majority of call load because they're going a couple different directions, while when you're on the island, you're just servicing the island. But that's pretty dynamic and changes over the year.
Okay. How do you guys get around the traffic issue? When it's season and you hear the fire engines, you're sitting here, I'm having water, she's probably drinking beer, and you hear the fire engines and you're thinking, how the heck are they getting around? I mean, it's a little better now, but...
It's a good question. One main thoroughfare, lots of canals. There's only so much you can do. So first step is the organization doing the construction project has been incredibly communicative with us. They talk with our public information officer constantly to let us know ahead of time what they're looking at, how will it affect our emergency response pattern. They had folks out there on golf carts, or you saw they had little radios. They could even talk to the fire trucks, and the fire truck would say, "We're coming this route. Close this lane down so we can get through." So They've been great to work with, but there are still times when that traffic stops right up. We employed right at the beginning of the construction. It looks like our big ambulances, but it's a little tinier. It's got a beach. We call it a beach ambulance, and it's narrower. It can go on the beach as well as it can go. If a car can't get completely off the road for a big truck, but it can enough to get that little beach ambulance through, it can get places fairly fast, even if traffic's a problem. And then our final resources, we do have an air ambulance. We have a helicopter ambulance opportunity, and we'll use that sometimes, especially like a remote call down in Lover's Key. But if it's a problem and a response time issue, we can use that air resource.
Where's the beach helicopter?
Yeah.
Where is that?
It's not just ours.
Okay.
Oh.
It's a Lee County asset. Yeah, and it's run by Lee County EMS.
And I'm sure the people in the traffic are like, oh my God, how do I get out of the way? There's nowhere to go.
And what can people do? They can't really, if there's people on the sidewalk, you can't,
There's only so many places you can go, and hopefully education with folks of, pulling to the right, not stopping in the middle of the road and things like that to free that center lane up will help.
Now, what other services? Obviously, the majority of what you guys do is provide emergency services, but what non-emergency services does the fire department provide?
So outside your day-to-day running fire and emergency medical calls and so forth, we call it our life safety division, and they run all of the other non-emergent services. So that's everything from building plans review and inspections and code enforcement to fall prevention programs, CPR and AD programs. We actually send our inspectors to a 40-hour class on how to install car seats the right way, so we can install car seats, helmet fittings. I could go on and on and on, but there's a really good link on our website to this robust list of services you wouldn't think a fire department necessarily provides, but lot of other resources like that of preventing things in the community.
So you do you offer courses for the community to come in and learn how to do CPR and how to operate the AEDs?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
we do. And a lot of times we'll actually go to your business or your condo complex, with resource availability, we'll come to you and hold classes.
Do you know, I mean, not individually, but is the island set up with a lot of businesses that have AEDs or?
Good question. And I don't know from a business standpoint.
Every
Maybe I
time
should
one
stop
of us
saying
say
that,
good question. Yeah, no, say all my questions are good.
We, right now, I couldn't tell you from a business standpoint.
Right.
We do see an increase of AEDs going in public facilities. I know we had some
Okay.
good communication at the end of last year with the library of getting multiple AEDs in the library, and we wanted to support that program with both AEDs as well as what we call a Stop the Bleed kit. So if
Okay,
somebody has a
right.
bleeding emergency and some things like that. So I think it's becoming more and more prevalent, but I think government facilities can certainly lead the way in that. So at least people know if I get to a government facility, I can get an AED.
And, in terms of, the time that it takes you guys to get down here, shut up. It's important for people to be certified and provide, because that's the first line of defense when somebody goes down in a medical emergency is who's around before you guys can get there.
Rapid CPR, rapid AED use is absolutely a lifesaver. And you probably saw on our website, we had some stuff last year. We won 2 years in a row this thing called a Mission Lifeline Award, and it's about some of those cardiac saves. And don't take this wrong, but if you're going to have a cardiac event, have it on Fort Myers Beach, because we have one of the best rates in the nation of taking care of people with cardiac events. But so it's not a bad place to have that type of emergency.
Which
quite
by
honestly.
no means mean if you're at home and you start having chest pain, should you get in the car and drive to the beach? No, just
no.
call
Give us a call.
911.
Give us a call. Yeah.
By the way, big numbers for you today. A lot better than Ray Murphy or people like that. So good job today. Everybody's very interested in the fire department and all the services. So thank you for that.
I thought you were making me wrap it up.
No. I just want to make sure he knows he's big ratings bonanza. That's all.
I was looking at, and this may be in the past, but the Slumbers Safe, or what is that about?
So the Slumbers Safe program was designed to give an economic or business incentive for properties that receive their ordinance inspection. And so the concept would be, if you come from, let's say, another company and you want to, another country, and you want to stay on Fort Myers Beach and you stay in a hotel, you assume it is fire safe to stay in. But if you have a short-term rental, is it? And we feel like people from outside should have the same safety measures, so forth. So we have this ordinance in effect. We do inspections to make sure those short-term rentals are just as safe as, say, a hotel room. To incentivize that, the Slumbers Safe program gives the business a website icon as well as a sticker to put on the window of the actual occupancy that says they're certified by the fire department Slumbers Safe program. We wanted to give them kind of that incentive. So if you're shopping for a place to stay, maybe you can clout that a little bit on your website to say we're approved and we're safe, and let people know that it's been inspected.
Do you think that we should all be wearing masks because of this virus in China?
I think we're okay so far, but
Okay.
I'll keep an eye on it.
Who are you going to vote for in the election? I know you weren't going to answer that.
No. And I said, I won't ask it.
Well, you
But
have to
I know
ask it.
he'll
You never
ask.
know. Sometimes I know the chief is neutral. You have to be neutral, right? Is that?
Very much so.
But you will go and vote, right? It's important to vote, right, chief?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Our local government is the only government, as we say.
Right.
Supporting your local government, getting out and vote for our fire commissioner, our city council members is how we control how our island progresses.
And please stop by the department and get your sticker.
Yeah. What were you giving out? You're giving out
I
kinds
brought
of
all
goodies
kinds of
out.
cool
What are you
stuff.
giving?
We
What are you
got
giving away
department
here?
Koozies
Well,
with
he's-
safety tips on them. And
Wait,
first
fire
aid
department
kits and-
koozies.
And
Interesting.
the tot stickers.
Yeah.
The
Oh.
tot stickers.
What's a tot sticker?
A tot sticker long time ago was designed to put in the window of your house, your kid's window,
Oh, yeah,
so the
yeah.
fire department knew. Now, there was some controversy over labeling that from the exterior, so now we put it on the inside door very low, so if firefighters are coming in your house crawling around, they know which bedrooms have kiddos in them.
And pet stickers.
We have the same thing for your pet. On your window, you can put a pet sticker so we know to go look for your little guy if he's a pet, even
Isn't that nice?
after you've gotten out.
What is the most interesting call in your entire career that you've ever gone on?
That's a tough one. I don't know. I'll tell you what, you would expect it to be something probably gross and gruesome and scary. And I've had some pretty terrible fires in my career as well. But
Really?
I would say the most impactful call was we responded to a gentleman that had simply fallen out of bed in the middle of the night. And we went to the door, and his wife answered the door, and she said, come on down here, come on down here. And you're groggy, and it's the middle of the morning, and you pick this little old guy off his floor and put him back in bed, and he says thank you. And as we're walking back out, she takes us down the hallway, and she stops at every picture on that hallway, and they're pictures of his military service. And she talks about all the things he had done in his career for our nation.
Wow.
And I think we just felt so humbled and thought, what a job. I get to come out in the middle of the night, forget that, I get to take care of this guy that dedicated his life to our nation. And it was a humbling, that's why we're in this business type of field.
Awesome. That's a great
That
story.
is a great story.
Anything else you want to tell the people? We really only have 9 people that pay attention to us over the time.
Let me give you a couple things. One,
Okay.
we have an open house next weekend.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's down at Fire Station 33 on Linnell. That is 10 to noon, so we invite you to come down here. We're going to have the fire department's new ladder truck on display down there.
Cool.
It's not even in service yet, so that's kind of fun. March 25th at 6 p.m. at Town Hall will be our March Commissioner meeting, but we're going to be doing a life safety presentation before that. And it's kind of a historical review of United States fatal fires, why they occurred, and what we implemented in code to prevent them from ever happening again. So that's going to be a good presentation. And then one of the other things I wanted to add and wanted to share with you, this is probably the first time we've shared this publicly, so it's an exciting thing to share. But
Listen up.
as we build this new facility on that lot, the goal of our commissioners has been long-term. What is a long-term plan to take care of this community, and how can we get the most out of this facility for our community? And so I have met a couple different times with Sheriff Marcino, and we have been into talks about how do we also put some space in this facility for our sheriff's office deputies on the island. And so I think that's going to be a fantastic way to get even more value out of this facility. So we'll continue to talk about what that space looks like, but that partnership could just make this even more valuable.
Great. And do we have any idea when the shovels will hit the ground?
Not yet.
Okay.
The site planning and the spatial analysis will take quite a bit of time. From the day we entered a contract, we have about 180 days of due diligence, a lot of site planning, environmental studies, all that sort of stuff to make sure it's good to go. So it'll take a little time. We don't want to be in a hurry by any means, but we do have a link on our website under the About Us tab. It's called the Fire Station 31 Project, and we will keep updates on that. So if the community is curious, what's going on, what phase are you in, we'll try and keep that up to date so folks know.
What's a rough guess, and we won't hold you to this, about when you think it would be open? How long will it take from start to finish?
I think you could say conservatively it will take a year to build the facility
Right.
once you put a shovel in the ground. Now, I do not have a great deal of construction expertise. However, our Executive Assistant Fire Chief of Operations, Scott Worth, actually is also a general contractor and has built fire stations in the city of Fort Myers.
And he says?
He's ours. And so he will oversee this project to make sure it's done
cool.
incredibly well. So
Nice.
I would expect a couple years because we've got to do the designing, we've got to do the spatial analysis, but it's a couple-year project. Yeah.
Great. And I've lost my train of thought there. Oh, Angie. Angie is super. I just wanted to make sure I got that in there. She helped set up the interview, and if she's listening, thank you so much,
runs the
Angie.
fire
She's
department,
awesome.
you know.
Yeah. She's got access to your email too, I noticed. So well, thanks so much, Chief. Dear, anything else?
Much. No, I think we're
Okay,
good.
awesome.
Thank you very
Chief,
much for having me. I appreciate
Matt
it.
Love, everybody. His third appearance, and we always appreciate the Chief coming on with some great information, and we'll make sure we share all of that with you over the next few days. Right now, before we get to our next guest, I want to give something away. We're going to do it a little. Go ahead, dear. We're going to do it. I can take care of this. I've done this before. We're going to make sure that if you've won a prize from us in the last 30 days, you can't win a prize for 30 days, just like they used to say on the radio. So the number to call is